Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. William Besman, and I'd like to take this time to share something very special with you about a way to make change in your life and, if you choose, in the life of others. So, with your permission, I'm just going to share the screen, creating change in your life for self and for others, the power of hypnotherapy. And you may be asking the question, why hypnosis? Well, in order to truly affect change, going into the deeper mind, which is exactly what happens when we're using hypnosis. We go into an altered state of consciousness, one very similar to meditation or relaxation. Anytime that we have access to our deeper mind, we are able to make change much more powerfully and much more quickly. And as this overview continues, you'll understand why and exactly what I'm talking about. So if we look at this diagram, we're seeing a state of stress. And what do I mean by that? Well, see where that arrow is? That's you trying to learn a new behavior. I'm going to make a change in my life. I'm going to empower myself. I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. I'm going to take charge of my life. Whatever those goals are that you set for yourself, and every one of them are ways of empowering yourself. In order for it to be effective, it has to get into the subconscious mind and then the deeper mind, where it says there the old behavior or the neural pathway. Well, what is a neural pathway? It's what they now call the grooves in the brain where those old behaviors are recorded. And anytime we go to make change, it often feels like we're stuck in that groove, very much like those of you that are old enough to remember records or a corrupt CD, where it keeps repeating the same thing over, it gets stuck in that pattern. Well, that's what happens with us. Yes, we could set all the intentions in the world with our conscious mind, but if it doesn't erase the old behavior first, then there's no place to record the new behavior. And when you see a state of stress like this, it's very difficult to get that new behavior or that red arrow into the deeper mind. All right. Because the suggestions have to bypass that deeper mind where they'll be acted upon more powerfully and more completely. So the new goal that we set gets blocked. It gets blocked by the old behavior, the groove that's in there in the old behavior. So until we can erase that old behavior and have access to the deeper mind, which would look more like this is the altered state. So that once you've accessed the deeper mind, we can remove that old behavior, that old neural pathway, that groove that we get stuck in over and over again. Every time we try to make change, oh, yes, I'm going to go to the gym. And then that voice inside says, who are you kidding? You know you're not going to follow through with that. Yeah, you're going to start, but you're not going to finish, or any of those limiting thoughts and beliefs that we all have from those old neural pathways. So once we get access to the deeper mind, that's when we're able to erase that image. It's so different than just, oh, we all have to think positive. There's a million books out there about thinking positive. Yes, the deeper mind has to think positive, but how does that positive suggestion get there? How does that goal get into the deeper mind? First, we have to erase the old, right, which we saw, and then replace it with the new behavior. So the new goal can now be recorded. And once it gets into the deeper mind, it's much more powerful. That's where the mind body connection is. So we're able to make change more quickly. So what happens there, it's based on the fact that every thought, every emotion, both positive and negative, manifests energy. Thoughts are energy. Thoughts create a chemical reaction in our mind and body. And that can be a positive reaction if it's a positive thought, or it could be a negative reaction if it's a negative thought. But to make change, there has to be a release of that negative energy, that block that we talked about a moment ago. as it becomes released, it's releasing this energy, clearing the pathway for the new behavior to be recorded. Positive thoughts, once they're recorded there, create a foundation of self that can be built upon one brick at a time. One positive thought, one positive action, one positive behavior builds a series of positive behaviors that lead to a foundation of self that lasts throughout our lifetime. Negative thoughts or limiting beliefs can also become imprints and reactions that create CDs in our mind that play over and over again. These CDs are the limiting thoughts and beliefs. These are the judges inside of us that keep us blocked, that keeps us locked into particular behavior. These things are now called neural pathways or deep grooves in the brain. Years ago, I used to talk about, oh yeah, that recording is corrupt. Well, people wouldn't understand what that meant. But with computers now and access to hard drives and programs that are written on the hard drives, if a program becomes corrupt, right, meaning it's not working according to the goal, what have we learned to do? We have to somehow erase it, uninstall it, and reinstall an upgrade or a better thought or a better program, right? Well, that's what's happening when these neural pathways are found out that they're blocking us from accomplishing our goals. Those thoughts have to be released, identified, then released, and transformed. That energy that we saw before has to be directed into self-empowerment to replace the negative thoughts with the more positive ones. Now, let's talk a moment about the deeper mind. We know there's an unconscious. We know there's a subconscious that's above the unconscious. But it's going through the subconscious through the deeper mind that we can reach the greater self, the higher self, the soul self. Those things that are so far beyond the capability of our intellect or our conscious mind. Right? We're so proud to talk about how our conscious mind, we only use 5% of our consciousness. Isn't that terrific? What about the other 95%? Well, that's the deeper mind. This is the part of the mind that can't tell reality from fantasy. Imagination is real here. If you imagine that you're going to fail a test and you keep imagining it, your body is going to, every time you think about it, it's going to have a chemical reaction as if you already failed it. So many of these negative thinkers that are out there, when you beat yourself up, your body is experiencing the same result as if you failed it 1,000 times, right? So these repeated thoughts create those grooves or those neural pathways that we're talking about. The deeper mind can't tell time. And how it learns? Two ways, either by constant repetition, and again, anything that's powerful can be a double-edged sword. It can either be positive or it can appear negative. So if it's not a clear, absolute statement that's positive, it becomes interpreted as a negative statement. And that builds up each time you think that you can't do it, you won't do it, what might happen. And through repetition, that becomes our truth or our belief. It becomes a very powerful emotional event associated with the situation. So that's how so often we can fail, even if we're prepared. It's like someone has a beautiful voice. They get on stage and their deeper mind is programmed, you can't do this, you're going to freeze up. And what happens? So often they just sit there, they freeze. The harder they try to relax, the harder they try to be natural, the worse it gets. This is one of the laws of the mind. The conscious mind, every time it tries to control the unconscious, it's called the law of reverse effect. The opposite occurs. The harder you try, the worse it gets. So it's learning how to work with the deeper mind because you have to reach there in order to make true lasting change. Because that's where, as you look on this diagram, our beliefs, our creativity is stored, our emotions, our feelings, our habits, our addictions. The imagination is here. Our intuition is here, all clouded up and very often creating chaos rather than clarity and a clear, direct path to the goal that we want. Now, the conscious mind, the part that you're most familiar with, is less than 5% of our consciousness. Now, this part could understand time. You know the difference between 5 minutes and 5 years. You can tell reality from fantasy, right? You know, oh, that was just the movie. We know that the actor doesn't really die, but yet you know that. But if it's a good movie, at a certain point in the movie, you may think the actor is going to die, right? How do you know that? Because your heart's pounding, you have shortness of breath, you're sitting on the edge of your seat. We've all done that in a good movie, right? When we get so absorbed in the movie, we start to, our conscious mind gets diverted. It's focusing on the words, the action, and the deeper mind starts to think it's real. That's why we feel that action as it's occurring. Now, in a terrible movie, we can't stay focused. The head goes all over the place. We're thinking of other things. We look at our watch. The 2 hours of the movie feels like a week because it's torture, because we're not absorbed and time isn't going by quickly. So back to the conscious mind. That responds to our five senses. That believes if you can't see it, touch it, taste it, smell it, or hear it, it doesn't exist. And it's also the part that rationalizes why you're not accomplishing the goals that you've set for yourself, even if they could be life altering for you. Like one of your healthcare practitioners telling you to stop smoking because your lungs are already starting to change and to be disruptive in their natural ability to for you to breathe, right? Or maybe it runs in the family, and it's like your parents had different types of pulmonary diseases. So if you would stop smoking now, your body would have an opportunity to heal. So that's a strong motivation. But if the deeper mind has a thought, no, smoking is cool, smoking relaxes me. When I get anxious, I go and have a cigarette. But let's look at really what happens when you have a cigarette. You draw in the smoke, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide that we breathe in from the smoke of the cigarette robs our lungs of air. So we have more difficulty breathing, but we think that that's relaxing. But in the meantime, the nicotine constricts our blood vessels. Blood pressure goes up with constricted blood vessels, and we're actually creating more anxiety, but we think it's relaxing. So you end up smoking more and more when you're under stress rather than something that actually can be relaxing for you, right? One of the other challenges that you have with the conscious mind, it doesn't have the power to make change. It can rationalize, it can understand things. It has to make sense for the conscious mind to accept something. But just because the conscious mind thinks it's a good idea, it doesn't mean that it's going to be able to change the habits that we have. And when we try and we don't succeed, we feel, oh, I don't have willpower, right? The habits and beliefs that are so deeply grooved over and over again with strong emotion overcome easily. Oh, it would be nice to make that change. It would be nice to lose 20 pounds or 30 pounds so I could feel better in my clothes. But if food has been taught to be a go-to when we're under stress and we're eating to reduce stress rather than from natural hunger, the more stress we're under, the more we find ourselves eating or making poor choices. It's happened to all of us. And then the harder you try, the more anxious you get, the more that cycle repeats over and over again. So the key is understanding the power of the deeper mind. And many, many experts are saying now that between 95 and 97% of our current behaviors are pre-recorded. That leaves very little space and energy to make change. So that means there's only about 3% of your consciousness that's available to make change. That's why it's so important that you align with your own deeper mind, where the power is, not in just a conscious mind. We have this thing in our society, it's like a Nike commercial. Just do it. Oh, yeah, no problem. Just do it. Just go on that great nutritional program. What's stopping you? You go to medical people and they look at the logic of it and say, yeah, this is what you got to do. Oh, yeah, I have to do it. Makes sense. But why? Why aren't we able to do it? It's not like we're all stupid or illiterate. We've really never been taught how to access our deeper mind, or for that matter, if we're working with clients and we're coaching them, and many coaches are out there, we lay out all the practical things that they could do and ways that they could accomplish their goal. Do they actually do it? The percentage, if people are really honest, is very low of who actually does it, right? Or is able to accomplish it. And until it's recorded there, before they could see it, taste it, smell it, and hear it, it has to be recorded there with all our emotion. The conscious mind intellect is only able to use the 3 to 5% to create the change if we're doing it without the deeper mind. And the success rate is very, very poor. So how do you self-empower? First, the goal has to be clear, absolute, not wishy-washy, not vague. Oh, I want to be successful. Great. What does that mean? To the deeper mind, you may come from a family that you have 2 cars, you have a house, you have your own property or a condo, whatever it may be. To the deeper mind, maybe you're already more successful than what you had when you grew up. So just using words that are vague like successful aren't effective. To the deeper mind, that's confusing, right? We have to go into the altered state, whether you call it hypnosis, meditation, relaxation, focused concentration, whatever you call it, doesn't matter. It has to bypass the conscious mind. The conscious mind makes a decision, but then you have to get it into that deeper mind where the power is. You want to deepen the experience, right? So you start focusing and you set a goal. You want to go into the altered state. You want to deepen the altered state. You want to identify what's blocking. What are the limiting thoughts and beliefs and reactions? And where in the body is that stored? So when we think of something, a block, it's not just a series of limiting thoughts, and there are a series of limiting thoughts that lead to beliefs that get trapped in the mind body. The deeper mind and the physical body are one. That's the mind body connection. So as we make change, if it's effective, but not in the stomach, that comes whenever we talk about that relationship that's been painful. If we healed it and transformed it and released that energy and put that energy into something more positive, that would not be there as we recounted the story. So it's not about just simply getting and having insights. It's dissolving the blocks or transforming the blocks. And one of the ways of doing that is by shining light into the situation that's blocking us. And then being able to visualize the new goal. That's the rewriting of the script. When we dissolve the old one, see it transforming, and then rewriting that script. And then feel and picture you accomplishing the goal. What would it be like crossing that finish line, finishing and breaking through if it's a race, breaking through that barrier there and accomplishing the goal, or getting that promotion, or meeting the soulmate that you've identified but haven't been able to have the courage to connect with, whatever it might be. If you can't see it in your deeper mind, if you can't imagine it, and if you can't feel it, it's not going to happen. And if it does happen, if it's not able to be felt in the deeper mind, then whatever is stored there becomes true. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to sabotage it. I'll say something stupid, or I'll take an action that's inappropriate and go against the original goal. So now, how do you create effective suggestions? Well, the first thing is the suggestions must be positive. The goal must be clear and literal. Use present tense terms. It's not like in the future I'm going to have. It's you are or I am. Every day I get closer and closer to my goal. I'm accomplishing more and more. I'm feeling better. I'm feeling more confident, more in control of my life. You have to be descriptive. What would it look like and feel like to cross that finish line? That old Rocky movie, the first one, of having him uh, make it up to the steps of the mayoral building, right, in Philadelphia. He finally makes it. That the momentum, that the music playing, and then he's on top, jumping up, and boom, they switch to the main event, right? That was very descriptive. So many people used that to motivate themselves back then. We have to be realistic. If you have to lose 20 pounds in order to be at your ideal weight, you can't do it in a week. You have to be realistic. If you say, oh, yeah, next week I'll be at my goal weight, then you short circuit the effects of it because it's unrealistic. It's not believable. But if you can be on your journey and begin your journey and be well on your way to lose 5 pounds during this week, that's a goal that can be accomplished. That is realistic. And you have to avoid words like try, hope, wish. That the literal translation is that you're not going to make it. You're going to be the best trier, but you're not going to be able to make it. Repeat the imagery over and over again. You combine the goal with the motive and passion. Look at him, feel him. He's involved, he's active. That's what we need in order to accomplish our goals. So again, connect with the deeper mind. How do you do that? One way is focusing upon your breath. And as you listen to the sound of your breath, you start to relax. You start to tip that iceberg. Imagine your whole body becoming loose and limp and relaxed, whatever words are most comfortable for you. And then you can anchor it in by placing your forefinger and thumb together. That's one way of doing it. There's many ways, but that's one way. So when you are feeling totally relaxed, you anchor yourself with that forefinger and thumb so that in the future, when you want to do that, you take that breath and you press the forefinger and thumb together, and you'll instantly return to that more relaxed place. And then you repeat in your mind your goal, those suggestions over and over again. Constant repetition, that becomes the norm then. And before you know it, that becomes the behavior. When you imagine it, you feel it happening. And then you repeat it over and over and over again. And that new goal becomes recorded in the deeper mind with strong emotion. So therefore, because the deeper mind can't tell reality from fantasy, when it gets that image, it then starts to change your behavior as if it already occurred. That's how you use your deeper mind. The power of your conscious mind, when working with the deeper mind, when you use these steps or steps like this, you have access to the part of your mind that can make change and needs to be reached in order to make change. So when you add the energy with it, the goal of losing those couple of inches around the waist, if that was the goal, becomes recorded in that deeper mind. Therefore, it's going to occur, going to happen. With the positive imagery, strong emotion, you create neurogenesis, the new behavior. The brain is able to create new behavior if you release the old energy, the old recordings, then replace it with positive energy, positive recordings. It creates that synapse so the change takes place at the cellular level. And that's when it's a permanent change. So picture yourself standing on that mountain, overlooking the world where all things are possible. And when you create that imagery in your mind, seeing yourself standing on that mountaintop, accomplishing that goal, achieving that success, graduating with the degree you wanted, being successful in the business you created or in the business that you're in and you got promoted if you're in corporate America. doing what they ask to do to accomplish your goals, to accomplish the goals of the business, to be in alignment with that. You stand on top of the world, and you'll be able to change your life forever. And take a look at enrolling in our creative visualization course. Then complete the entire 100-hour nationally certified hypnotherapy program, where you not only can help yourself, but you can empower other people to make the changes in your life. What could be more of a meaningful life than be of service to others to help them accomplish their goals effectively, easily, and doing it over and over again with so many people? So if that's of interest to you, then look below for the way to accomplish that. Anyway, thank you. Hope you enjoyed this, and many blessings to all of you.